Well, hello. Welcome to Drawing with Fire. I'm Valarie, your neighborhood pyrography artist, drawing with hubby.
Hubcap.
And the 3 fur babies, because it's the easiest way to keep them quiet. So today we are going to be working on So Weak, So Strong's background and how we can overlap and underlap the stalactites and stalagmites so that we have a little bit of space in between with light coming up. And I think that'll give it a more dynamic feel. So we will work on that. I did not get to work on this week or last week after the live, only because we had the art show on Saturday, which was awesome. Wasn't it fun to be in an art show again?
It was nice.
It seems like it was forever. It almost felt like the first time, even though it wasn't the first time. It was just so long. And got to see all the wonderful art and see all the peoples, and yeah, it was fun. But so I'll go ahead and make a note of it now because I don't know how much it stands out, but because I'm feeling it, it's standing out more in my head. Because I wore makeup on Saturday, my eczema has gotten very mad at me. Like, very, very mad at me. And I've done all my medicines, and all I could do is wait for it to calm down. I definitely had a reaction, and I'm not 100% sure why, when all the protection I put on before I put on the makeup. So, I just wanted to point out the rash in the room. Alrighty, hey Sheila. 3 Claw is in the chat is Hubcap. Spence, Sonia, Andrea. Hello. Hopefully more people will come in and visit us. So let's go ahead. I'm heating up the 18 large at 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to angle this so we can see better what the pin's doing. And I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. Because remember, down here is going to be the lightest area. So we're doing a gradient. It tends to be easier to do a gradient starting with the dark. You don't have to. It just tends to be a little easier, especially if you're not used to doing it. But for this, I think it gives me a better view of what I'm doing. So these 2 areas are in the front. I'm actually going to separate this one and make it 2. So these 2 areas are in the front of the light. So they will be darker because there's not light hitting it. Our light is going to be down here at the bottom. So the area of the background. And the what's this? Is stalagmites up or down?
They're up.
Okay, so the stalagmites down here are going to be lighter, and then it'll get darker as it goes. And I'm probably going to have the light kind of arcing, almost like there's kind of a, because in the drawing that you see right here, there's a fire. There's an arc, like just a fire. So that's what I'm going to try to do a little bit more than I did in the. This is the original drawing with Photoshop added because I was playing with Photoshop. Hey, Carrie. Alrighty, so 4. I'm just touching on my test board to pull some heat as I get ready to go. So right now it's more the top half. This is going to be my first layer. I will darken it the more we go, but this just gives me a base to go from. So I'd say this is the middle color, and then as I get everything in, it'll be easier to darken the top and have it where there's no lines, because I don't want any lines in this gradient. I want it to look natural, and because it is a rock wall behind, it can have some texture, but I don't want it heavily textured because in the dark you don't see that kind of texture. So I will smooth it out with the flat drags. I can even come back in with the spoon shader and just hit those areas and smooth it out.
Shirley's here.
Hey, Shirley. So I'm using like half the pen tip up I know it can be hard. Let me see if I can get a better angle for you guys real quick.
Sorry.
It can always be a little daunting explaining what your pen is doing and have it make sense. Touch on my test board again. Drag it down so I can use either stroke. If you notice, the oval is a little darker. And if I've already got an area that's darker than the surrounding area, I try to mist that with the pen, going around it to blend it out. Blend it out. But this is definitely going to go much darker, especially compared to the floor. I think it needs to be at least the same in order to get the perspective right. Right here we can see where the grain changed a little bit. Some areas of the grain will burn darker than others, and we will just blend it in. But when I go much darker here, it won't be as obvious. So by going with this texture, with this temperature, I will have to raise the heat to go darker, but I'm a little less likely to get the, how do we want to call it? You know when your pen's too hot and you touch on the wood, it kind of, well, it injures the wood, kind of. It's almost like a scab. I'm trying to think the best word for it. Gash? No.
Does it like brand the wood?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
It creates that black charcoal area in the wood. I'm just trying to figure out the best.
And scorch it.
Yes, scorch. Thank you. That would be the word.
Okay.
That is the correct
You're
word.
kind of doing that now, but
I'm not scorching the wood.
gently.
Nope, this isn't even scorching it. When I say scorch, I'm going to quickly grab my test board so I don't do anything on this board. When I say scorch, I'm talking about when you're going like full heat to darken it. Let me find an area that will show. I'll turn my heat back down from 4. Right now I'm at 5.5. Let it warm up. That is scorching the wood. This is also where you're going to get all your carbon on your tip. If you build it up, you don't have to clean it as often. So I just bumped up to 6. Let it heat for a second. So that is scorching the wood. And for some things, if that's the look you're going for, it can work. Let's see here. I'm going to actually have to clean my pen from doing that. So let me turn it off. Actually, no, I'm not going to turn it off. I'm going to... So that is what I mean by scorching it. It has scorched it instead of leaving us a nice brown that I can build up on. So I'm going to move my tip real quick, my piece real quick so I can clean my tip. Because we can see the carbon right there. This is still a hot tip, so I don't want to touch it. But you see that gray? That right there is carbon, not oxidation. So I'm going to take, because this is a bigger tip, I'm going to actually take my block of paraffin wax. I'm going to bump up to 8, which is going to get the tip red. And I'm just going to tap so I can pull some of this carbon off. This is unscented canning wax. I'm going to go up to 10 and just really get it. The purpose is to pull the carbon off, and it may be hard to see. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my pen off because I think I got enough on there. A lot of times you won't see the carbon floating in the wax until it dries. This is my leather strop. It already has aluminum oxide on it. I don't need any more. You don't need that much. I'm waiting for my pen to cool. Luckily these cool quickly. I'm going to wipe in the aluminum oxide, and then I'm going to find a clean area. And now we have no carbon, and I have not done any damage to my tip. Now I could have gone straight to my strap with the aluminum oxide, skip the wax. I'm just going to have to rub it more. And doing it this way, I've made it quicker and less rubbing. See, now we have no carbon. It's all shiny oxide again. Oxidation.
Because the more you rub, that's like technically wear on your pen, right?
Yes, it can wear. Oh, I got some wax on my board. Didn't realize it dripped. There we go. So I can turn my pen back on, and I'm ready to go. I just need to let it heat up and get this wax out from underneath my nails. I don't recommend using an X-Acto knife, but I didn't have a choice. It's all I had. Alrighty. And so now my pen is all ready to go again. And back down at 4. And off we go. Now, if you don't recognize carbon on your tip, because it's an unpolished tip, so it kind of stays the same color as the tip, you will feel a drag. You'll feel like you're working a little bit more to pull the pen. It'll feel a little rough under your hands, and it will require more heat because carbon does not conduct very well the heat from your pen. So you have to turn it up to get the same tonal value. So once I get this in, I'm going to drop down. And based on what I'm doing, I could actually go a little higher with my heat without the carbon buildup. This is the first time I've cleaned this pen in a long while. Only use the heat setting you need. I know we get impatient and we want to like crank it up and we want to go. I highly recommend you turn that heat down, spend a little bit longer time with your burning, and you will see a difference in it. So that just going up is 4.5. And we can just see how much darker that half a heat setting went. I'm trying to have my pen as flat as I can and just drag. The more the tip is touching down, the more heat is pulled from the tip. And the more often you need to lift in order for it to recapture that heat. All wood burners do this. I don't care what they advertise. They all do it because you can't control how much heat is being pulled from the tip. So we go back over. And I tend to kind of angle this tip a little bit. And so it gives me a bigger area, surface area that's touching down at on the wood at once. Making the stroke wider. And that's why I think learning your pens makes the biggest difference in your burning.
That makes sense.
If you know and you're comfortable with what your tools do, it will improve your art. Go back over it. See, even this I can still blend out to make sure there's no streaks with the spin shader if I want. So that's why I'm not overly worried about it. Because I know I can smooth it out. Alright, so based on that temperature, down here is obviously going to be darker. I do think I need to take a moment, find something with an oval big enough.
What do you need?
I kind of want to draw the arc just so I have a visual of where the lightest part is going to be, but I want to make sure I can get it even.
What would you have that would have an oval?
I'm thinking. I'm going to have to freehand it. It's alright. It's alright. So what I'm doing is taking my HB lead pencil and I'm just going to give myself a visual line. Of where I want the lightest spot.
Burl is here.
Hey, Burl. What I did was try to put my hand in the center of this.
Hey, Burl, I'm just giving Val an extra view. All right? Mock me if you must.
So what I did is I put my hand in the middle and I moved the board. And that will give me a somewhat, because her body's right here, so we can't see that, and then it starts going down. That should be good enough. That should be good enough. So based on that, visually, the darkest parts come to about here, and then we start getting a gradient. And I haven't decided if there will be a light burn here or if I'm going to leave it raw wood.
Robert Fisher's here.
Hey, Robert. So I know I need to go at least by her face. Yep. So that was her face. This is going to make me commit. So I'm just using the tip here. Remember, your tip carries the most of the heat. It's the smallest area of the tip. And that's why when you burn flat with the whole tip, unless you're at a really high heat setting, it burns slightly less. Drag this up. Now, all these darks are going to make it easier for me to adjust her. Let's see here. That's where the line is. So now I know all of this area in between here and here needs to be the same. These darks also help to shape the body.
Contrast.
Yep. This will make all the difference in what the body looks like.
Rox actually wandered off.
Well, because now it's no longer a, what am I missing out?
Yeah.
I can use a smaller pen to get in there and shape, which I'm going to. Kind of lost some stuff. So I'll use the smaller spear shader to get in there and reshape her face. Luckily, it's not like you really see the face, so I don't have to worry about any small details overall there. Let's see, we saw what I did with just the tip on the same heat setting, but now that the whole tip is touching down, we see a different tonal value. So all this I can blend with either this tip or a spoon shader. And then I can flip this board and go back in the other direction. Which allows my tip to heat up and drag it down into it. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've worked without a photo reference, so to speak. Where I have to rely more so on my brain and what I know I see in real life versus what I see in a photo.
Yeah.
I think it's a good practice.
I think so too.
On being able to pick those things out in a photo if you've practiced just doing a drawing from your head with the understanding that it won't be perfect. Because our brains are not perfect. And I'll bring these up. Now it probably is going to require, it's either going to require a different pen that heats differently or a little higher setting to really bring this area together without any kind of difference in tonal value. If it's so minute, then I wouldn't worry about it. You see, in flipping the board and going in the opposite direction, I've also got a smoother burn. Burn in one direction and then come back in the opposite direction if it's going with the grain. I have a smoother burn. Oh, somebody is active this morning. Good thing we don't have smell-o-vision. You know who.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. He's closer to me, so I get it first. All right.
I just looked over there and got it. Oh, looks like he just laid down.
At least it makes for a much quieter stream.
It does. She gets so stressed.
If the studio was bigger, I'd put dog beds in here for them. Yes, the tip will get me darker. But I do recommend, if you're trying to get a smooth burn, if you're just using the tip, to make smaller strokes and overlap them. And what I mean by overlapping is right here I've already got the burn. So I touch down in the middle of that burn and drag down. Trying to avoid the harsh lines.
Yes, Carrie, thank you for the thumbs up, everybody.
And a lot of times the lines happen, like right here, just because that's how the grain is laying on within the wood.
Bruna will be back. She has to go chase the cows. Right.
And picturing her running in the yard, throwing her hands around. Just the tip, I can go back in and just with the same temperature, with the control of my pen, and work it out.
Actually, in my scenario, Burl is in a dune buggy, and so are the cows. They're in dune buggies too.
They're racing.
She's chasing them down.
I'm going to let my tip heat up because right here I've already burned, so it requires a little bit more heat. In this I'm going to do oval strokes just to get a base laid down. Excuse me, a darker base laid down. And then I can blend it out. With wood burning, we are at the mercy on some level of the wood and how it wants to work with us. And if we choose to burn on a piece of wood that is of a lower grade, it is going to fight with you. Or rather, you're going to fight with it because it's just a lower grade. And I know some people don't like me saying that. But the grade of your supplies does make a difference on your finished piece of art. Like when you're using student grade colors, acrylics or whatnot versus professional. Professionals cost a whole lot more and they tend to come in smaller containers, tubes or whatnot. But they also have more pigment, which means you use less of that material. I hit a spot on the grain that is reacting differently. But see, I've done all this burning and my pen's still clean. So I'm going to have to blend that area out. But we are going to move over. So let's see here. In my drawing, we have this stalactite that's coming down. That's in front of the wall. That's in the back. It'll have a little bit of light just on the very end of the tip. Because that's how light casts. So there'll be a little bit of light here. Less light here because it's further up. But this will be dark.
Stalactites.
It's right here. Stalactites are down, right?
Oh, yes. I was looking at your reference, not your pattern.
No, yeah. That's just the drawing with some of the elements. My brain, for whatever reason, didn't think it was necessary to print out the reference for the stalactites and stalagmites. So these do have texture. So what I'm going to do is kind of map it out in my head because luckily it didn't have to be perfect.
Oh, they're sleeping.
They just wanted to be involved.
Yeah, that's good.
All they are the shape. I'm not talking what they're made of. They're just the same shape as a regular rock. I'm going to shape it. I'm pretty sure I didn't print the reference because I didn't feel I needed it. Printer ink costs money. That's why I also print multiple references on one piece of paper if I can. All this is going to be much darkened, but it gives me some shape so it's not a flat burn. What's wrong? What's wrong?
You can smell it.
Oh, yes, I got it. Let's see, make sure I'm still on camera because I'm looking down. So I'm just going to shape it. Don't know where it's going to end up. I'm kind of looking at my drawing as to how I kind of form things. But all of this is going to be dark. with some underlying lines. I hope Layla feels better now. And see if I just use the tip or the edge where there's less metal, it's going to burn darker. Now it's a mess, but I will bring it together. So I've left my edges lighter. So I can start darkening some of the crevices.
Carrie wants to know what kind of wax that you used.
It was just canning wax, paraffin wax, with no dyes or scent. So it's just the wax you'd buy, though he's in the UK, so I'm not quite sure. I mean, they can over there, so.
I'm pretty sure they have paraffin wax.
Yeah. You can actually, because I did research because some people have had a hard time getting the canning wax.
Really?
Yeah. The white tea lights that you can get, they're in the little tiny ones that are aluminum foil, and they're white and used for all kinds of stuff. That is paraffin wax with no scents or dyes. You can use that too.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Because I believe it was Spence who was having a hard time finding it, and he asked me about the tea lights, so I went looking, and it's the same wax.
Oh, that's handy.
So if you got, I know over here you can get tea lights for really cheap, like a pack of 100 for really cheap. That is an option.
Sheila says you can get the wax from Hobbycraft.
Okay.
In blocks.
But it's gonna last you a long time.
Yeah.
You're not.
I mean, unless you just like burn dirty all the time.
Yeah.
And you have to clean your pen over and over again.
Yeah. Now I know some people show that process. I was the first to show the process, but I know other people have shown that process, and they just wipe it off, that hot tip off on like paper towel and go back to burning. You really shouldn't do that because there's still a coating of wax on your tip.
Oh, Carrie has a bag full of tea lights.
Oh, there you go. Tea lights. The white tea lights should work. And you wouldn't even really need... I would just like trim the wick so it's kind of out of your way. But other than that, you can keep it in their little aluminum foil holder. In fact, it might not be a bad idea for me to switch to the tea lights, only in that I've got a smaller area and I'm not having a big old chunk of wax sitting next to me. But I don't have any tea lights here in the studio. I'll have to grab them from another area. So I'm darkening up the top.
Do we have any plain ones?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we just have the vanilla ones?
The what?
Because we have two kinds of tea lights. I know
We've got plain.
I think, yeah. I was going to say, I know we have vanilla ones too. The vanilla scented ones.
Oh no, we've got you want the white ones, not the like off white ones. Those do have. They do have. And I'm saying not to do the scented ones because because they use stuff to make them scented. And we don't want a bunch of chemicals all over our tips, even though we're wiping it.
Spence says the tea light works for, and lasts a long time.
Yep.
I guess what's cool about it, because you're just like cleaning it. I suppose if it ever got to the point where it was too dirty, you could just burn the tea light as a candle.
Yep.
And then just get a new one.
Yep.
So
no waste. Alright, we're gonna blend this into the ceiling.
Sheila says just cut a small block off your wax.
Yeah, I just hadn't wet. I'll have to like get my walnut hollow with the knife, heat knife, people feel more, I think in general people might actually like to see the tea light because they're more likely to have that around than canning wax. Unless they make candles. If they make candles, it's totally different.
So Burl probably has plenty.
He's on her soap mission right now.
Oh, it's soap.
Yeah, it's soap.
I'm sorry, I was thinking candles.
So let's get some dark shadowing in here. I'm using the edge. In a way, I'm inadvertently kind of making some of the lines look like flames.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't intentional.
Looks cool, though.
I was just talking and burning. I wasn't really thinking a whole lot. But I like it, so I'll keep it.
I made candles when I was a kid, but they were made the very old-fashioned way because we had a moose, so we were using animal fat.
Gotcha. Oh, I've made candles too.
It takes a long time to make a candle that way.
With a moose?
Well, I mean, just like you gotta keep dipping it into the wax.
Yeah, I'm building it up.
Into the wax.
So I'm actually going to keep the flame look. I like it. I mean, as I move down and whatnot, it's going to change a little bit. But I like the strokes.
Those don't smell the greatest either.
I'm sure they don't. Yeah, let's get where some of the lighting's going to hit this.
Correct.
Is that Burrow? Or
No, it's Jess.
Alright, I'm just lighting the tip a little bit with a lighter burn. Let's see here. And I can always readjust. So this is just blocking in, so I have an idea of where I want to go. But I actually like it. So, and right here is really dark. So I'm going to let my tip heat up for a second and start shaping this. This is the wall behind. The stalactites and mites. There's a little gap. Actually, I think this is a wall, but I'm just going to make it a gap. I think it works better now that I'm burning it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the fun part of art. It's like when you can make alterations and you can make changes on the fly.
You see, as I kept the pen in contact with the wood.
Correct.
Is it an emergency?
I don't think so.
Can you check to see if it's an emergency, and if it's not, just ask him to wait until I'm done, please.
That's what I just did.
Okay. Let's see here. We got another one. This is like, yeah, this is a wall that I put in. But I kind of actually like a little bit of this dark. Again, I'm just using the tip. And I'm going to shape out a little area right here. But now these darks also define how dark I need to go over here. But now we have some shape going on. This is where I'd started off with the wall. I'm going to use just the tip to darken it. Let's see here. How did I do this? This is... Okay.
You're going to have another
Ding.
ding.
So I'm going to make this one coming up instead of a wall. Look at that, changing it in real time.
Yep. It's okay. What do you see? Yeah,
so if this one's up. So this is the line. I made it wider. Okay, I can see lines drawn on my pattern that I drew as I was transferring. Okay. Now I can remember what my brain was thinking. It was connecting those. There we go. Remember, the slower I drag, the darker the burn. And flat. Oh, guess what? I learned some stuff with UV spray and the workable fixative.
What did you learn?
Is everybody to hear what I learned?
No one knows what you learned. You have to tell us.
No, are they ready to hear it?
Yes, we're ready to hear it.
Sorry, my brain's doing multiple things at once. Just the tip. Meanwhile, wondering what's going on with my son. Are we okay?
Yeah.
You sure?
I think so.
Okay.
I told him if it was time sensitive to let me know immediately. And he just apologized for interrupting the stream.
Oh, he didn't have to apologize.
I told him that.
Okay, so right now I've been making the board for the Hippie Crafter watercolor pencils for the test, and I got all the color on the board. And then this isn't in regards to the colors, because that'll be a whole video, standalone video by himself. This is about the varnish or the sealants and how the wood reacted. Now I am discussing birch because that's what my test piece is. But I taped off an area to see how much the Liquitex varnish darkens the wood, to see how much the polyacrylic darkens the wood, and then inadvertently found out how much the UV spray darkens the wood. I wasn't expecting the result that I got. Do you guys want to see that part of the board? I'll show you.
Where is it?
It is upright right there, because I have it facing away from the light until it's ready to go in the window. I've got to section things off, cover it, and then it's ready to go in the window for 6 months. At least 6 months. Probably a year. So we will take a break from this, and we can see how much darker this has been to the bottom, which allows me to darken the bottom.
Be right back.
Alrighty. I'm not going to go over the whole board. We did start the burning of the board in a live couple of months ago, and I got all that finished. What we're looking at, this is specific to the workable fixative, the UV spray, the Liquitex varnish, gloss varnish, and polyacrylic gloss varnish, and how the wood reacts to it. I will do a whole video, I think, just specifically on this, because you really need to see up close and personal, but yeah. So, this full board, I'm going to show it like this. This full board was sprayed with workable fixative, except for this square right here. And that's why it says not sprayed, because I put a piece of tape here and covered it, so I only had raw wood. Okay? And then, in my next step, so this is the raw wood. I've already started spraying the rest of the board, the whole board, with workable fixative, so that I could go on to brush varnish and not move any of the colors, because taking varnish directly to any color will smear it. So I had to put the workable fixative on it to keep that from happening. And then strips were put on the right side of each one of these squares with tape overhang, because I wasn't thinking in this way. I just taped it in order to keep it down. So there was overhang of my strips of paper, which you can really see right there. So this piece of the wood right here is sprayed with both workable fixative and UV spray. This right here is only sprayed with UV spray. So we can see how much the UV spray actually darkens the wood. Now, if you're doing a full piece and you spray the whole thing, you're really not going to notice it. But because I have something that was covered, I can see the difference. And hopefully the camera is picking it up. And it's a big piece, so it's going to cover my face. So this is just UV spray. This area right here is UV spray and workable fixative. So workable fixative, UV spray, and workable fixative. This is completely raw wood. So I also, once I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. So now we need to find out how much does the wood darken with just the varnish brushed onto the wood with no workable fixative, with no UV spray. How much does the wood darken? So I took this square that I had covered and I painted just the Liquitex right here at the top. You can see the line going across. So this is what Liquitex does to raw wood. This square right here, I was like, well, I need to be able to have the raw wood right up next to the varnished area so that my brain can see what's going on. So this right here, this square is polyacrylic, and we can see the polyacrylic goes darker than the Liquitex gloss varnish. All of this is gloss because it's the only stuff I work with. So for me personally, we discussed that last week why. So that is just Liquitex direct on raw wood, and this is the polyacrylic, Minwax polyacrylic direct on raw wood. And we can see how much darker in the scheme of things. Again, if the whole board was covered in this varnish, I don't think you would notice it because you're looking at the full big picture and you see it. But because I blocked things off and covered things and kept other things uncovered, you can see the difference. And another reason I wanted to do it is when I test this board, I'm going to see how much the wood darkens under just the polyacrylic and how much under the Liquitex. Now, in all fairness, the Liquitex website states that this gloss varnish has UV protection. So this wood shouldn't really darken at all. The polyacrylic does not have UV protection, and so that may be an issue. And just real quick, on this one, I mixed the colors both on my rough palette and directly on the wood. I was trying to guess at what colors might one color not be light fast and the other color be light fast, so we can see for this how the colors break down. So that's what the whole square is, but at the top, you can see a line. At the top, hopefully, this is Liquitex varnish, because I also wanted to see what it would do to the color. This had no, I'm trying to think, did this have workable fixative? It actually, I think, no, it's raw wood, sorry. No, it's raw wood. So no workable fixative. This is just the Liquitex, and then underneath it is a polyacrylic, and we can actually see the difference in the color of what the polyacrylic does directly versus the Liquitex. So this board has taught me a ton. Now on my test squares, I don't have, this is all raw direct color with a workable fixative sprayed on it, and this is how I'll be covering it. I have to redo it, and but this is how each area is going to be covered, because these are the areas that are getting tested in the sun, and down under the piece of paper is my control area, so that when I pull it off, this is what the color looked like when I applied it, and then above it, this is what the color looks like in the sun for 6 months to a year with and without UV protection. And that way I have a visual. Because, again, with color, if the whole board's done and then you varnish it and you stick, and then it's the sun is beaten down on it, over a short period of time, you're not necessarily going to see the fading because it's happening all at once. And so when your brain looks at it, it's going to look at it and think, it's doing good. It's doing good. But if you took a photo of when you originally colored it and got it all ready and done, and then took a picture now after time has passed, and more than a month needs to pass. It needs to be, depending on the product, no less than 6 months and up to a year. Testing can take a long time to see that difference. But right here, we really get to see what those products do with the wood. So the Liquitex is right here. It's from this dot to right here. So it's from, all of this is Liquitex. All this is polyacrylic. All this right here is raw wood. So that is what I learned. And that's why, though these boards are really tedious to do and whatnot, they are still extremely helpful to see what's going on. Now on this, the only place the polyacrylic is applied is on this left side of the flower, of which I know is a mess. I know this is like, I mean, looking at it, if you just look at that, your brain's like, I don't know what you want me to see. Because there's just so much going on. I think that kind of lends to the, if it's too busy. Mm-hmm. That kind of proves that your brain ain't got any place to stop. But anyway, I wanted to see, since I kept these squares in one area raw, I wanted to see how this holds up with just the polyacrylic and workable fixative to this side, which is workable fixative and the Liquitex. And we'll see. So each color is painted on the board twice. I tried to go across from each other. It didn't work out the best, but I tried. So that is what the sunflower is for.
Do you think that there's any merit in somebody like doing this exercise on their own?
Absolutely, because we're in northern Arizona. We're higher elevation, so our atmosphere is thinner. We also don't have the smog issues of a big city or a lower elevation city has. So that what I mean is there's less interference with the sun hitting us directly. So it may be 90 down in Phoenix in the sun, but 70 up here in the sun can feel very similar to that 90 down in Phoenix because we don't have the interference of atmosphere.
I guess what I was asking is...
yes, I think everybody should do that.
From a technique standpoint, or you said you learned a lot when you were doing this. So. Yeah,
I think everybody should try because your location is going to may have a slightly different result. So I think, plus you can just sit there with some music and lay out your board, and I did record it all too. So
it's like ASMR. You put yourself to sleep.
There was a couple of times I was like, okay, maybe I need to take a break. But each set of colors, laying them all out on the board, took easily an hour. It is time consuming, but once the board is done, you throw it in the window. I'm doing east window. If you're doing it, it should either be an east or west window. I'm testing morning sun because that's actually just the direction my studio sits is due east. So I'm getting all the morning sun all the way up until lunch. No! And then it stays bright outside my window, so I'm also getting reflective and just regular light bright hitting it too. So for me, it's easily, in the summertime, 4 hours of direct sun. And then in the winter, of course, it'll be less because the sun has moved further south in the sky and whatnot, and all that stuff goes on. But I do think, and it could be a shorter, definitely a smaller board. You know, I had to test all 72 colors. Since Hippie Crafters sent me the product, I wanted to give it as fair of a test as possible. So that's why every color has been swatched, and every color except for white, black, and gray. Every other color is on the sunflower. That was the purpose. So it is for a review, but in the process of doing this review, I definitely learned stuff. It was the UV spray, I think, is what and how it darkened the wood on top of, hello baby, on top of the workable fixative. That's what surprised me. I did not expect that. In my brain, it was the wood's already been sealed, so it shouldn't be darkened, but it was. And I was like, aha! I like learning stuff. I like learning stuff. But yeah, I would say test the wood that you are most likely to use. And I use both. This is basswood, but I use both birch and basswood. And the birch was the biggest piece of wood I had for all 72 colors. So that's why I chose that one. I definitely learned a lot. I think it was worth the time because of what I figured out, what I learned with this. And that board has 2 coats of workable fixative and 1 pretty heavy coat of UV spray. And the UV spray side on the swatches also has the Liquitex on it. So the purpose of what I'm doing is because I am doing a review for a product. It is student grade. And I know people go for student grade because they cost less in order for everybody to be involved. So if that is the situation you find yourself in, that maybe you can only afford student grade, which is nothing wrong with it in any way, it is good to know how to protect your work, what to expect based on at least limited testing that I'm doing, and how to protect your work. So that's why I went ahead and accepted the student grade version. I personally don't use it, but I am definitely blessed in the situation that I don't have to. But I know other people aren't in that situation. So they need to know how to protect their work. They should protect their work.
And then if you do use student grade materials...
I'm not knocking them in any way.
No, but I'm just saying a good practice is to make sure that once you're complete with whatever it is that you're creating, take very good archival photographs of it.
Yep.
Because it's going to fade.
Unless you protect... If I can prove with the UV spray and or the Liquitex that you can protect that work, they won't... It's less of a worry. If I can prove it works. If I prove it doesn't work, then you're absolutely right. Archival photos, because you can expect it to fade.
Yeah. And
that's why I was trying to put it through somewhat of a vigorous test for that very reason.
And even like archival stuff, if you don't protect it,
some of it won't.
It's gonna fade.
Yes, some of it will fade.
I have a piece that I did for a store.
Oh well, that's kind of different.
And they put it directly facing the window.
Yeah.
And I went back 10 years later, and it was a vibrant piece when I did it, and it looks like it was done in black and white and gray, and now there's no color left in it. Sun burnt all the pigment out of it.
Yeah, unless your art piece is intentionally made for outside. Art really isn't meant to be hung in any kind of direct lighting.
No. We're coming up on noon.
Alrighty. So I guess next week will be, hopefully, because I will have finished that board, I can make sure I spend a day working on this, at least, and get this all filled in. So hopefully next week, being the end of June, end of May, beginning of June, we will be done with this piece. I will next week definitely pull up stats and information from lupus.org. I think it's org. I'll have to check. But the Lupus website of their official organization, to make sure people have all correct information. And with lupus, the more you know, if you have an idea that could be what's going on with your body, when you're informed, they say on their website that you can lessen the time it takes to get diagnosed by 4 years if you have the information and you know how to talk to your doctor. And next week I do want to talk about doctors. Next week might be a little spicy because I want to talk about doctors.
Okay.
I got some things to say about some doctors.
Right.
Not anybody in particular, but a mindset of some doctors. That's what I mean. Wow, we can see the difference in the darkness.
Yeah, we can.
So I'm going to have to take
Got a lot done.
this dark down here. But I do like, and it's actually kind of close to my drawing, I do like, because my brain wasn't paying attention in what I was doing. I was hanging out talking to you guys, and we were talking stuff about the wax. So my brain wasn't engaged fully in what I was doing, and I kind of got some flames for my stalactites. I like that. I'm going to have to do that next week, even if it means I'm talking to myself in here. So if you hear me talking to myself, it's because I'm disconnecting my brain to copy over here what I did here.
Nothing new about that.
Nothing you can do about that. I'm talking to myself. That's just the way it's going to be. All right. Do we have any questions? And next month, I don't know what we're doing. I'm trying to figure that out. I'm not sure. This one's taken a lot out of me emotionally. So I might go for something a little easier next month just to be for a little while.
Okay.
But I have no idea what that's going to be. You guys can definitely tell me what you'd like to see. It tends to make it much easier for me to pick something if I know what you guys would help with. Alrighty. You know what to say. Let's say it. We're going to say it together.
It together.
It together. Say it with me.
It with me.
You're awesome. You can do this. Why?
Because you're a pyrography artist?
Because you're a pyro artist. Happy burning, guys. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're new. And yeah, do all this YouTube stuff. Bye. Hungry.